Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of June 7th, 2021, the Rutherford Board of Education. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So in compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meeting of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of this act, the Rutherford Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date and time placed on the bulletin board outside the Borough Clerk's office, mailed to the Herald, South Bergenite, and Record newspapers, and filed with the Borough Clerk. Hard copies of the agenda are in this meeting room. The agenda has also been posted electronically the Friday before the meeting on the district's website at www.rutherfordschools.org. Public participation in meetings. This regular meeting of the Rutherford Board of Education will be held as scheduled in the cafeteria of the Rutherford High School, and members of the public are invited to attend and participate. As a courtesy, the meeting will also be streamed live via Zoom. Members of the public are encouraged to participate by logging on at the website posted and found in the agenda. All members of the public participating remotely will be muted throughout the meeting, although opportunities for the public comment will be made available to those participating remotely as well as those attending the meeting in person. During the public comment portions of the meeting, at which times they'll be unmuted, a video recording and video conference of the meeting will be made available on the district's website. Subsequent to this meeting, the video link can be found by opening the Board of Education link and clicking on public meetings and then videos. I'd like to ask the Secretary to call the board, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Here.
Mr. Bogosian?
Present.
Mr. Conti?
Present.
Mr. Healy?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mr. Mazzone?
Present.
Dr. Racine?
Here.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Present.
Dr. Oladi?
I'm shooting for
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to first start by moving the minutes from the regular meeting of May 10th, 2021 for approval. Before I do that, are there any comment, changes, or edits? All right, not hearing any, I'd like to request those minutes be entered. This evening, we have two special presentations. I'd like to start, though, this evening by having our District Equity Committee step forward and have the presentation. I'm sorry, if I could just ask you to hold just for 1 minute. The superintendent would like to address the group. Forgive me, just 1 moment, please.
Today, the district suffered a loss of secretary at Lincoln School, Michelle Fawcett, who has worked in the district for 11 years as a secretary to the principal at Lincoln School. And Michelle, Ms. Fawcett, had a tough battle for the past year or so, and succumbed to that battle today. So I'd like to have a moment of silence, if we may, for Mrs. Fawcett. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies, and now the Equity Committee, please. We're going this way. Thank you.
For the benefit of the board and for everyone who may be watching this either now or later on video, every building in the district had a equity committee, and every building committee had a representative or two serve on a district-wide committee. The building committees met as needed, at least once a month, in most cases much often. The district committee met 4 or 5 times during the course of the year. We'll turn it over to Mr. Mark Bergen, who is a teacher at the high school and a member of both the high school's committee and the district committee. I'll let him introduce the members who are here, the members who are not here, and do his presentation.
Thank you so much, and my condolences to the district. Woman student Jen and I both share, and my condolences to you and a loss for the district. Thank you so much for allowing us to share our successful year that we had with you. I think this is an extremely important committee, and we've maintained passion and commitment this entire year, and we're excited to kind of demonstrate what we've done for you. I'll allow each one of them to introduce themselves, if that's okay. You guys wanna go on?
Mark Doty, Pierpont School, English Language Arts.
Nisa Jarrett, Pierpont School, Special Education.
Nadia Alvarado, Union Middle School. I co-chair the committee at my building along with Justin Van Dyke, who is not here today.
Jen Gaggis, Rutherford High School Guidance Department.
Christina Ruglio, kindergarten teacher representing the Kindergarten Center.
Thank you. And again, I'm Mark Bergen. I am a high school English and special ed teacher. So some committee members who are not here just from the high school. We have David Frazier, Nicole Bowden, Dr. Ken Lacey, and obviously myself representing the high school. And from Lincoln and Wash School, we have Denise Garzenzabal and Jennifer Kessler. All right. So I think the most important way that we can start off is kind of understanding what the notion of equity looks like within our school district, right? So the word equity, and defined by Webster, is just treating others with fairness, and a sentiment that I know that all educators and administrators share in regards to students. But in regards to education, I'll read this quote. It says, "An equitable education system helps students develop the knowledge and skills they need to be engaged and become more productive citizens." So that is ultimately our goal as educators. And more importantly, giving all children an equitable start would lead to better economic and social outcomes for individuals, for our region, and ultimately for our nation. So how do we achieve that? Our Equity Committee mission statement is provide a progressive platform and organization that will work with students, staff, and the community. And I think that's the most important aspect, is a triangulation, if you will, because not a single person can determine how to treat someone with fairness. It needs to be done as a community. It takes a community to raise a child, and we have an inaugural role with that. So furthermore, we do that by developing sound practices that celebrate multiculturalism, diversity, while promoting equitable practices both inside and outside the classroom. Again, this is an establishing somewhat of a culture rather than just a committee. All right, so who are the individuals that fall under the term equity? Everyone, absolutely everyone in the district. I think that the impetus for this committee may have been culturally responsive because of everything that happened this summer, but the reality is every single person deserves to be treated fairly. Whether it has to do with cognitive disabilities, whether it has to do with your race, whether it has to do with your family structure, each person deserves to be celebrated and acknowledged. So the importance and relevance. Our students are exposed to so much, whether it be social media, their homes, their peers, whatever it may be, however they absorb content. The world is a scary place. The world is a big place at this point, and I think that preparation is absolutely key. No longer do these students live in a bubble where they don't hear about what's happening across the world. They do, as quickly as we can access our phones. So preparation is really, really important. Next, a Rutherford demographic is becoming more diverse. So we need to meet the needs of our culture that's represented right here in Rutherford. And lastly, and most importantly, student empowerment yields academic success. We may talk a lot about theory and emotions and feelings and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it has to come down to academics, right? And so if we develop that empowerment within our students, I know we all share the same sentiment, it will translate within the classroom. All right, so how do we develop this? Again, it's not simple, but there is a purposeful approach. So provide professional development to our staff, right? As teachers and as educators, we need to be prepared with language. We need to be prepared with understanding of content and vocabulary. Develop curriculum that is culturally responsive, continuously, progressively looking at our curriculum and what our students are learning. Provide a safe outlet for students to share their voice and opinions. And lastly, establish relationship with organizations and parents from the community. right? We don't have these students in a vacuum. They go out into a big world. And so therefore, we want our sentiments and our agenda to reach the outside world. One thing that we've done this year, which I thought was really phenomenal, we had a lot of positive response from, we created an interactive Padlet, which can be updated as often as we'd like, for parents, for resources for parents. As you can see, some of the examples up there, how to talk to your students about gender roles, how parents can influence this child's gender roles, understanding sensitive topics in the home. And we also provide information for parents to understand what teachers are also learning about. So there's kind of like there's a shared understanding. And I'll invite Mark Doty up here to talk about our connection with RARI.
All right, good evening, everybody. The Rutherford Anti-Racism Initiative, which is RARI, was formed last year in May of 2020, as you can see, by a small group of concerned citizens to explore and discuss how racism impacts Rutherford. And they created a mission, and you can see the mission statement there, really about making the community more aware of systemic inequities that continue to exist for people of color and take concrete actions to address them. I know Mr. Hurley had some contact with RARI and met with them, and then I know Nisa Jarrett and I attended a couple of meetings with the RARI committee, and they're basically, that's what it is. They're concerned parents that formed a committee, and when a lot of the things started happening in the last couple of years, and they want to very much be involved, and they've asked us a lot of questions about the kind of things that we're doing in our schools, and we've shared some of the things we've done in our PLCs and some of the objectives and some of the lessons that we've been doing. And we've had a couple of very good meetings with them, and they're kind of becoming a partner with us, where they're asking questions. We're asking questions of them because we want to stay connected with the community. As Mark said earlier, the community is becoming more diverse and is becoming a lot more integrated in a lot of ways with different cultures. And what we want to do is we want to reach out to them. We want to hear what their concerns are, what they would like to see from us, and they're willing to help us in any way that we can too. So we've enjoyed the partnership we've had with them so far. We've attended a couple of meetings, as I said, and we're going to continue to do that. The community is growing, as you can see. They have 350 members to this date, and there are more getting involved. So I think this is something that could really be productive, and we are going to continue to work with them. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to have a member from each one of the demographics, elementary, middle school, and myself, high school, talk about some of the building initiatives that we've done and professional development. The professional development was not a blanket approach. Every single building, as Mr. Hurley mentioned, had their own group of representatives and teachers. So the professional development was geared towards the needs of the building, the needs of the students. We understand that the language and content and what we need to develop within teachers at the high school looks very different than the K Center. So we wanted our approach to be specific, to be poignant, and to be tailored to the students of the building. Ms. Christina Ruglio will come up and talk about the K Center.
I'm actually going to put this up here so I can look at my notes. Thank you. So I'm Ms. Christina Ruglio. I'm representing the kindergarten center. I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I'm just going to briefly discuss how the staff has promoted equity at the K Center through staff professional development, classroom practices, and reaching out to the community. I worked on this together, I'm going to say, with the entire school building. There's really 8 kindergarten teachers, and we work collaboratively to promote equity within our classrooms. And I'm going to start with, we created a mission statement, which is on the left on the slide. And we created this just to kind of be our guideline of our lessons and how we're engaging equity in an age-appropriate way. Our focus has been on exploring the concept of what makes you special. And celebrating our similarities, our differences, and what brings us together as part of a global community in 5- and 6-year-olds kind of in their world. Classroom practices at the kindergarten center involve providing students with inclusive literature, toys, and school supplies that represent all people. For example, we feel that it's important that our kitchen sets and play sets have a variety of global foods and a variety of utensils. You can see other lists on the slide of other things that we feel are important in just to have in our classrooms. For classroom practices, we feel that students, families, and Rutherford community should be engaged. We've done that by learning about various holidays and traditions throughout the year. So when a holiday comes up, we talk about it, we discuss it, we have fun about it. For an example is in October, we also do character traits per month. Our character trait in October is respect, and we talk about respecting ourselves and our families and others, and each child decorates a house, and they put their family and how their house represents, and it's displayed in the hallway in our school. If you actually can switch to the next slide, you can see pictures of other activities that we've done in our school. We've done walk in our shoes. Mr. Foster, our gym teacher, he did that activity with every student in the kindergarten center, where they talked about what made them special and then celebrated, what makes each of us unique. You can also see that we had book donations from the Girl Scouts. That's the picture on the left. They donated high quality diverse literature to our school, and it's displayed in the office when you walk into our building. And they also donated multicultural crayons to every classroom in our school. So just in conclusion, at the Kindergarten Center, we are just committed to celebrating diversity and creating an inclusive learning environment for all.
Hello, everybody. Buenas noches. My name is Nadia Alvarado. I'd like to begin by introducing to you the members of my school's Equity Committee, Cheyenne Richardson, Lauren Fuchs, Maggie McDoty, Bill Helfingstein, and my co-chair, Justin Van Dyke. So we met at the beginning of this year to establish our goals and objectives to our staff. We then took part in some PD roundtables. One was based on implicit bias, and then we also shared the high school's presentation on addressing sensitive topics within the classroom. In terms of our students and what we've been up to, we actually just ended our first full year of implementing advisory. And if you're not familiar with advisory, I'll try to give you a quick overview. It's an essential program for our school building, and it basically works on the premise that a student is most likely to succeed with a strong network of support and with an adult advocate within the school. It also serves as a platform for discussion of age-appropriate topics. And if I can't read over there, but if I remember correctly, some of the topics we've covered have been based on self-respect, biases, stereotypes. We've done a lesson on celebrating diversity and social emotional learning. This is just to name a few. We look forward to continuing the advisory program, as it is, like I said, an important platform for students and teachers to establish relationships, which really is what it truly comes down to. We're also continuing to use our bulletin boards. We're trying to create more signs that are posted in both English and Spanish. Our goal is to create many, many more with many different languages, but that's a long-term goal. Our Friends of Rachel Club continues to create activities that celebrate and include within our building, and most recently, we've reached out to the high school as well. So we're excited about that, continuing that partnership for next year. And we continue to use the UMS announcements as well as the Twitter for special activities, lessons, and celebrations. In terms of curriculum, I definitely need glasses. We met at the beginning of the year and we reviewed standards. We've looked at a culturally responsive curriculum as well. The English department continues to use literature from varying authors and cultures. And we're excited for what's to come for next year and beyond. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stand over here so I can see everyone. I feel like I'm being rude otherwise. Okay, so again, I'm Nisa Jarrett, a special education teacher from Pierpont School. I currently work with 6th graders, but I've worked with all grades at Pierpont. So I'm just going to talk about some events, some teacher activities, and some resources that we use within our particular building to address equity. For instance, bulletins. We have bulletins that come out for every month, but also it's altered each day according to special days that we're celebrating. On those same bulletins, you can find events that should be recognized throughout the month of, whichever month you're on. For instance, for June, we're centering on a topic of pride. Having pride in yourself, pride in who you are, pride in general, and explaining to them about the LGBTQ community and what goes on there. We have things like character education, social emotional logs that everyone in the building are supposed to keep, and they do. It's not the only activities that they do, but it is logged for, review of our administrators. So a lot of the concepts involved in equity can coincide or overlap with social and emotional learning and character, just those foundational traits that we feel like if we teach the students, the earlier the better, you'll start to see some of those practices interwoven, in their daily lives. So that's what we try to do monthly, daily. The Pierpont Post is a school magazine that a couple of our 5th grade teachers are working on, and they include topics on equity in that as well for the children to access and learn about on their own. And the students help put it together, so that's great for them. We have lots of spirit weeks, for instance, students dress like teachers and teachers dress like students, and that's supposed to promote empathy, right? Thinking about the other person and being in their shoes. For teacher activities, the 4th grade teachers worked on things like kindness and what's called a breakfast club, where at a 4th grade level, some of the terms involved in equity are a little tough to understand. So what they do is they have conversations that center on acceptance, right, and respect. For the 5th grade, they talked about things like Ramadan, March Madness, which was a school-wide project of different activities to get the students motivated and to, again, think about the other person and how they might feel. For instance, I think we actually won a competition on kindness and collecting kindness rocks. The students designed different rocks, that had different messages on them, and a lot of them had to do with, again, equity and character education. At the 6th grade level, I could talk most about that, but I just put 2 things down. We did a We Are wall where every student decorated one paper brick and had one adjective to describe themselves, and it was really telling. And Miss Mann, a teacher, worked on that. That was her idea, and we put all the bricks together to make one wall, and they're so proud of the wall when they pass it every day in the hallway. We just recently did the Holocaust unit as a grade with equity and LGBTQ plus Amistad. There are things that are mandated in the curriculum, and the Holocaust is one, but as a grade, we did the unit. One class had a Jewish teacher come in so that the kids could ask her questions. We had the kids listen to read alouds, and Mr. Doty and I had our students, for an assessment, make a movie on what they learned on the Holocaust in particular. So, so that we cover the topics, but we make it a lot less scary. We focus, like I said, on the foundational things like respect, acceptance, and being proud of yourself. And that's the way we cover equity. And then we just had resources. We've had in-house presentations. Mr. Doty and I are on the equity committee. Actually, I lead the equity committee, and he's one of the members. He happens to be my co-teacher too, so we work a lot together. There are things that are approved by the district, like Brain Pop, Vocabulary, Ed Puzzle, Class Dojo. We presented at our faculty meeting to help the teachers know that they had a plethora of resources to pull from so that they didn't feel uncomfortable with finding content that was appropriate for their particular class or grade. And that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Lastly, I'll talk about the Rutherford High School. A lot of it's overlapping in regards to professional development. We had a tremendous response, positive response from our teachers in regards to our professional development, which I really thought was probably one of the best things about this year. You know, when you step into a situation like this where there's a lot of sensitive topics and things that people may be uncomfortable about or don't agree with simply, speaking to 120 teachers that all share different ideas and ideologies and political stances, you have to come to a concise idea, right? Is that we need to do this for the students. So being able to push that aside and understand that we need to absorb this content because our students are bringing it to us, right? Not because we want to push it onto them, was really, really great for us. And it really kind of created a cohesiveness between the staff here. So that was excellent. Secondly, I started a club called Hear Our Voices, which I run with 2 other teachers. Every 2 weeks, a group of students, which started at 10 and is now at 30, come and we meet on Zoom and we talk about everything from social injustices going on around the world. We talk about how art can lend itself to talking about difficult conversations. The first question I asked them was, how has race shaped your own identity? And that yielded a lot of really amazing conversations from students that otherwise felt like, maybe no discipline or classroom allowed that platform, which is fine, right? So, but now for me, I wanted to have that for them, and the responses have been tremendous from the students. That's really great. And Mr. Hurley, the bottom link there is a link to something that we kind of came up with ourselves. We have a biography portfolio, which I would love to share with all of you. A handful of students decided, hey, I want to put who I am, my identity, out there for everyone to read, whether it be ethnicities or what they choose to do with their time. So it's a little portfolio, and a few teachers did it as well. So it's kind of special and just kind of a unique scope into students that we don't often see. And then lastly, because I'm in the English department, I had a little bit more access to the curriculum. So we added a few books, Fences, Perks of Being a Wallflower, and the Freedom Writers Unit. All of them are kind of particular to either social injustices or just aspects of our culture that our students need to be exposed to. All right. And these are just some images from the year. How our bias is for addressing sensitive topics, preparation, and that is it. So thank you all so much. And Mr. Hurley, thank you for supporting this, really. And thank you all for also supporting this. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you to all of you. I need to say that. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
I just want to first of all thank all of you and all of you who aren't here, the people of the committee, both that we met with on the district level and at the building level, and all of the faculty, the staff, the administrators. As I think it was Mark who said it, we all come from different places and we all had different reactions to where this topic, how does it fit, where does it fit, how do you get it across, what do you bring up, what don't you bring up, and to come in a short period of time to a pretty solid consensus, and I think a pretty solid and intelligent approach, and a grade level specific approach. I mean, you can sense the difference, when Mark was speaking about the high school compared to speaking about elementary and kindergarten, the students are bringing us what we need to address versus, engaging the students to develop that empathy and that critical and the creative thinking at a younger age. And to do all this in a very short period of time. Now, a lot of it, we were already doing, but what we did was we raised the awareness. We raised the attractiveness, let's say, to say, let's make this part of our routine. And, I've said the Parent Academy, for example, was a goal from 2 years ago or a year ago. And I remember saying then, I've said it to this board and this community plenty of times, I don't believe you should establish a goal for a year. We are required, right, every year to have district goals, board goals, administrator goals, superintendent goals. We're required. They should never be, or they rarely should be, a goal that you just check off for 1 year because you have to do it and then you put it aside. And I think, you heard everyone who spoke tonight talk about we're excited about next year. We're excited about where we could go with this. I've had teachers, through their principals, reach out to me to ask if they can be part of the district committee. So, this is something that it's going to be here, and it should be here. And it doesn't have to be a goal going forward. It's going to become part of our culture. And I think the credit goes to the folks who are sitting here and their colleagues. I appreciate the fact that, yes, this board and I came with this idea, this goal, and we said, but you guys had to take it and run with it. And you did. And I think, and this, believe me, is an overview, but there's a lot more that goes on each and every day. So I thank you all for that. And I don't know if anybody on the board has any questions or comments, or?
Yeah, I'd like to respond, sir. So, I really appreciate the thoughtful approach that all of you have taken to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think our hats are off to you all, for bringing this, forward, operationalizing it, as the superintendent said. There's something to be said for your presentation being here during Pride Month that makes me proud as being a member of our Rutherford community. I think that difficult conversations need to be had. And I think that an educational arena is a place where they should be. So I applaud that. I think, having 3 children in our district, when we think about fostering a welcoming environment, a flourishing environment for all of our students, I think it starts with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I really, really appreciate it. And again, hats off to you for doing this during a global pandemic, because you all have your day jobs, and this is an extra assignment. So again, thank you.
Thank you. And certainly, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to, I know this is very entertaining, but no one will think badly of you if you need to leave. I'm sure our student rep, we're going to let him go next, perhaps, instead of the.
Yeah, we can do that.
And we usually say to our student rep, right, you probably have homework too. I'm sure you all have papers to grade. So feel free to stay, feel free to leave. But again, thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See, I always know how to clear a room. Let's hold off on the presentation I'm going to do on ESSER for a moment so that we can get the report of our student rep. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's nice to see you again. Just to recap, as the year is coming to an end for students and all, we like to thank all of you for all your hard work. And with the junior and senior classes, we're very excited. The junior class is very excited for next year, especially after a successful junior prom that they had. And they're very excited to see their senior prom come with the chance of normalcy next year. Seniors are very excited to have their prom coming up next week and graduations, and are excited for college. And everybody is just excited for the year to end off on a good note, and especially with all the hard work and you guys did for us to make the year as easy as possible, especially during these harsh times. On behalf of the students of RHS, I'd like to thank you for listening to us and our needs and accommodating to them, especially if that took you extra time, hard work, and just your endless efforts to accomplish those tasks. And that'll be it.
Well, that's very nice of you to say to the board and to the administrators and teachers, and I will certainly convey to everybody that comment. And I do think, Raj, that this has been a year. I just, before coming into this meeting, I recorded a message for superintendent's message every month, and also for the middle school's ceremony. And in both, I really do think that there's been a lot of obviously hardship, negative things, anxiety in the past year, but I really do think now, as we're getting almost to the end of it, right? There's been a lot of positive. I think the appreciation that we've got for each other has grown. I think we understand what the students go through a little more. I think the students understand what we go through a little more. I think, simple things like that we've took for granted. The excitement that you say you're feeling because there's going to be a prom or there's going to be a graduation. There was always an excitement, but I think it's a little different this year. I think there's almost like, wow, that was gone last year. So I think, going forward, I hope in the spirit of equity that we just talked about, we learn to have empathy for each other. We learn to respect what everybody goes through a little more. And we learned that, we got through this thing, together. I mean, there's a lot of accolades going around about, oh, this one did this and this one did that. But we really got through this thing together. And everybody played a part. So I do appreciate your comments. Also, tonight is your last night, because our next meeting, you will no longer be a student. You will have graduated. So congratulations. And have Mr. Maison perhaps present to you on behalf of the board a gift, thanking you for your service to the board. Okay? And Raj, like I said, you can take your name. You can't take you don't want it? All right, I'm going to hang it up in my office then. All right?
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And good luck. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much, Ron. Have a good summer. And a great start at college.
Where's he going? Does anybody know?
Oh, the spring time. What did you say?
Yes, I do.
Oh, University of Massachusetts.
Yeah, I believe that was it.
Oh, God bless him.
Better be, now we're on TV saying it. Okay, I want to spend a couple of minutes as this presentation speaking about the ESSER. It says committee, it really should be as well, committee grant. And, Mr. Kelly, feel free, please, to come in with any information. The federal government has allocated money, as we've talked about, to school districts throughout the country, throughout the state of New Jersey, during the pandemic. There was an ESSER grant that came to us earlier this year. And that money was in the $250,000, I guess, ballpark. And primarily that money was geared towards the PPE that we needed, that no one knew we were going to need, right, to have school open this year. So, everything from masks to hand sanitizers to room air purifiers, anything connected with that. Then came a second grant, about two different versions of the grant, but total was about $760,000. And that grant we had to do an application for that was due, well, actually, it was due June 4th, but we got it in the end of May. And we have been told that we should be good to go with it all. And that grant's going to go towards next year addressing academic and emotional, mental health needs, as well as some PPE. I included in the packet a spreadsheet that showed you some of the allocation, showed you what was in the grant and where the allocations were going to go. And I'm not going to go through everything, but I'm just going to highlight a couple of points. The academic issues that are being addressed is we're going to be running a summer enrichment program in ELA and math at the high school. A zero period program to address those same needs. And again, students who are identified as maybe being impacted a little adversely in the past year can take advantage of this. A zero period program at Union School. And summer program, again, for ELA and math at Pierpont School. A zero period at the high school, as well as Union Middle School. District-wide, expanding our use of some web-based computer resources, technology resources, like IXL, which provides interventions for students who need assistance right now we're using it in math and science. We're going to expand, math and language arts. We're going to expand it under the grant to use math, language arts, science, social studies, and Spanish. And that's because those are the subjects they offer. And it provides, by New Jersey standards, assessments, brief assessments to show where a student may be with that standard, and can provide enrichment activities to get them up to standard, enrichment activities to move them even further along past the standard, if that's where they are. We're going to be doing the same with Newsella, which is another program, primarily in social studies, but in some of the other subjects, which works on reading comprehension, critical thinking, creative thinking. We're able to expand these programs district-wide across the grade levels through the grant. We're also looking in terms of elementary science with a whole bunch of programs that we're going to be able to bring in to help enrich that science program. You know, keeping in mind on the elementary level, we have a science specialist, but our teachers are generalists, and so much of elementary is focused on, as it should be, on literacy and math, but science with STEM is a growing need and concern, so we're going to be able to address that. In terms of technology, increasing some of our Chromebooks, getting some touchscreen Chromebooks for the younger kids in kindergarten, first grade, where, you know, they can move from the iPad now to a Chromebook, but have the touchscreen. Also, getting some hotspots for if we ever have to go remote again, we can assist people in the community who don't have internet availability. In terms of emotional, mental health, getting some training in the CASTLE program, which we've been using in district, but expand that training for teachers to then turnkey to other teachers in terms of social, emotional learning. Some professional development and mental health support, some professional development in speech trainings some of our speech students lost some time in the past year, and this will give us a way to catch that up. And then a partnership with Care Plus, which will bring on-site to mental health therapists, clinicians, who will be able to want to be housed in the high school that would work grades 7 to 12, want to be housed in Pierpont that would work grades K to 6, and they'll work in concert with our SACs, and they'll work in concert with our school psychologists and our guidance counselors to address some of the concerns we have with students in terms of anxiety and school avoidance and all the issues, depression that we've been dealing with and have been growing over the years and have grown even more in this past year. And would be able to be a resource instead of having to say to the family, you know, it's beyond our scope now, we have to send you somewhere else. The somewhere else will be right down the hall in the building. They'll be working as a member of our staff. They could do in-home therapy. They can be a resource for faculty that may need help. They will do professional development for the faculty. And this is a program that I saw several years ago at Westwood Regional School and thought it was fabulous. But, you know, again, where do you fit it into a budget? How do you get everything in? Well, this will give us the opportunity to bring it in. And if a student needs to be screened for suicide ideation, depression, anger, right now we have to have the parent come and send that student to an emergency room or to a doctor. And everything will be done with parent authorization. It wouldn't be any different. Okay? It's not, but now that screening can be done on site, which is a much better environment for the student and the parent, and I think a much more detailed screening. So that's one that we're very happy with. So that grant is going to provide a lot of academic, mental health, and we're also putting some money aside for additional PPE, assuming we're going to still need some, whether we're mandated to need it or whether it'll be people's desire or choice to have it. Now, what's coming next is the American Recovery Plan, right? Is that the right acronym, I think?
Yes.
Grant, which is even going to be bigger than this one. And that grant was released today in terms of the application. The application doesn't have to come until November 24th. There is a resolution tonight to approve, as we've done before, us to submit the grant. But quite honestly, we're, a long way, relatively long way compared to when November 24th as being the end line, away from doing it. We haven't had the time to first of all, get the details. Only released in the last couple of days. And this one's going to be a little different. It may involve some committees. It's going to involve some community input. And even as the grants developed. And some of this is earmarked towards academic, and some of it is earmarked towards mental health, but not as much. And we're going to be looking also at things connected with facilities. So that process is just beginning. Part of the process was a template that came from the federal government called the Safe Return to School. And that template, which I included for you to see, and again, I'm asking you to approve it. This does not require board approval, but, I just feel that it should get board approval, and it should also be something where, in terms of dealing with the federal government and the state government, I want to make sure we're checking every box. The oddity about that template, which has to be submitted by June 24th, and we will do that within the next day or two, and you can't submit your grant until this is submitted, and it has to be on our website by June 24th, and we'll do that as well. And we are open to community comment when it's on the website. But I just want to be very truthful about this. It was asking about a safe return to school. On June 24th, if I see the safe return to school plan, I'm expecting to see what I'm anticipating in September, which right now we're being told, right? Full days, no remote learning. So this plan is asking us about mask wearing, hygiene, social distancing. It's really a statement of what we've done and what was approved last year in our plan. And in fact, the guidance we received was to use last year's plan. I think not everybody is where we are, and not everybody's where New Jersey is. This is a federal response. I just don't want people to misunderstand that this is not the plan for September, but it's a plan that got us through the last 14 months. And should things take a turn somewhere, it's a plan that we can pivot back to. Okay?
Is there a way to put a qualifier or
I used the past tense, and I referred to the plan that was approved in September or August of 2000.
No, but I mean, when it gets posted, is there a way to put a qualifier so that people don't make a miss?
I'm going to put a letter out,
Okay.
hopefully in the next week or so.
Okay.
I've been waiting on when to put a letter, because I don't want to tell people, hey, we think it's going to be a normal year, but I don't have any details yet. But before we pack up for June, I want people to get something from me.
Yep.
So it very well might just be, this is what we know now, and we're waiting to see what tweaks there may be. In that letter, which will come out probably before, I'm going to hold off to June 24th. I may send this out or ask Joe to send it out to the state and the federal government for the application. I may hold off putting this on the web until June 24th. And so in my letter, I could address that. Once again, I hate to be so blunt and transparent, but I'm going to be. You're dealing with bureaucratic, checkpoints for grants. I don't want to add anything to the template, because then I may be modifying what their template was. So I think the letter will explain in a different, maybe a smoother, less verbose way, what I just said about what the plan is. Okay? But I wanted you all to be aware of the process, of where the money is going, and what the plans are for the next pot of money. The plans are right now to see what the guidelines are, and whatever committees we have to get together, whatever approach we have to take, we'll take. We have time until November 24th. We're not going to waste time, but I also don't want to rush. Similar to what I said about the equity goal and the parent academy goal and the like, everything that we put in this grant, the one I just went through, the different programs, none of it, if we didn't have it, would have prevented us from opening. All of it is going to, I think, put us in a better place academically and with mental health. And all of it are things that when the grant money's done in 2 years, and some of this has to either go away or be scaled back, we'll have discussions with the budget managers and with the board's finance committee. Hey, you know, this program was really effective. We need to keep it. How are we going to do that? I don't want to just grab things for the sake of here's free money we're spending. I want to look strategically, work with the budget managers, the administrators, whoever we have to work with to say, short order, what's our needs assessment here? What can we use? And let's see if we can get that through the grant. So that is going to help us short term, and some of it, I'm hoping will be long term. I'm hoping that some of this will stay as part of our programs. Okay? So that's just to give everybody, both the board and the community, an update on where we're at. Certainly are always willing to hear from people about it. Certainly as the programs are put into place to hear about it, we're open to that. Mr. Kelly, I don't know if there's anything you want to add at this point?
No, I think you covered it. Thank you.
So, I don't know if anybody has any questions about that.
I just have one. On the county meeting last week, Lou DeCiccio, the county superintendent, mentioned this. He suggested it should have board approval. Can we do that on the 28th?
We have it tonight.
We have it tonight.
Yeah, I have two resolutions for approval. The suggestion was for the reasons I said. It's not mandated, but, you know, and again, I'm being very honest, you know, when you deal with the county office, who we deal with daily, right? They're going to know that we're doing it the right way, whether we have that extra check mark. This is dealing with the federal government. I want to make sure that I don't hear in 6 months, well, show me something, okay? Sure. I also think it's important for the board to be aware. I think it's important for the community to be aware. And one way that you know and you remember down the road that you were aware is we've approved it. And the community knows that it's something that we've discussed, which is why, you know, I've been sending you things in the packets and things like that to keep you apprised. You know, so that's why we're doing it. And we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to get things approved with these grants, whether it's mandated or not, because I think it's, both Mr. Kelly and I agree it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, Jack, I think a strategic approach is obviously what we would expect, and I think, you know, it certainly is the best way to go forward. Dealing with the federal government, looking for funding grabs is not the best way to go. I think having that strategic plan is perfect. As far as, you know, having a plan to pivot back to and fall back to, it's, I think, what every one of us expect, and I think that, you know, it seems very reasonable. The district's done, I think, a fabulous job in responding to the pandemic, you know, up and down the hills and valleys that it's presented before, you know, all the administrators and yourself. So, you know, obviously whatever you need from the board.
Thank you. I'll just, if there's no more comments on that or questions, just a couple of other quick items as part of my report, I guess. I left you all a copy of Scribe, that's the high school's literary magazine. Every year, Ms. Dugard sends it for the board, and so I'd like to share that with you. I do have 4 board members who indicated, and also Dr. Eliza, 5 board members who have asked for a ticket to graduation. If anybody else wants one, just let me know. They're not in yet, and once I get the tickets, I'll reach out to you and get them to you one way or another, drop them off, you can pick them up, or, because we don't meet again until after the...
You can put me down.
You too? Okay. Because we don't meet again before graduation, okay? For those of you who have not attended graduation before, and you're coming, main gate opens usually 4 to 6, graduation is 6:30. You please have your ticket, because the faculty members at the gate aren't going to remember, hey, you're a board member or something like that. We set seats up on the track, and we encourage board members and faculty members to sit there rather than in the bleachers. But again, we don't mandate to do that, but we encourage you to do that so that folks who are there can see members of the board there. The ceremony usually runs about 1 hour and 20 minutes. This is the first year we're doing rain dates because at the time we couldn't go inside. So it's the 23rd with a rain date of the 24th and a rain date of the 25th. If we have to go that far with rain, then everybody's getting wet on the 25th, okay? And we don't have any covers over the seats on the sort of dress recording. I also want to mention that we don't have a need for committee meetings on June 14th. I just received today some policy updates from Strauss Esme. Mr. Healy, I'll go through those in the next week or so, and then as we've done, I'll see how critical it is. I'll send them out to the committee. If there's not a need for a meeting, we can move them in the summer. If there's a need for a meeting, we'll either have a meeting, or if they're not critical, we'll wait until the next meeting, okay? So I'll be looking for that in the next week or two. And,
You said no meetings on the 14th?
no meetings on the 14th. We don't need any, and we've been having a lot of meetings. The other thing I want to mention about meetings, I mentioned it in my narrative and communication. Come the last day of school, the chiller's coming off the roof, all the ventilation, everything's new is coming in here. So we won't have any airflow here in the library. So we're going to move, and the other buildings are, under construction that have big spaces and asbestos abatement. So we're going to move the June 28th meeting and the two meetings, the one in July, the date escapes me now, I think it might be the 20th, don't quote me on that, and the one in August, we're going to move those to Washington Schools gym. If we can get back into high school for August, we will. But right now, we'll move those to Washington Schools gym. Okay? And obviously, when we send out our packets and all, we'll remind you of that. And that's it. I'll have some comments at various points, a few resolutions, as I'm sure Mr. Kelly will as well. Oh, I'm sorry, one last thing. I was very surprised to see that school boards is going with a virtual workshop again next year, because I know today I was at a meeting where most of the other groups are going to be back, that go to Atlantic City are going to be back. I didn't hear about NJEA yet, but a lot of the others are going to be there. But you all should have gotten the publication from school boards where they talk about that. And like last year, if you are interested, Mr. Kelly will put out some information about that, and when he's short order, and you could sign up, and the virtual you were able to access throughout the year. So they're repeating that again for this year coming. Okay? And that's it for my report. Thank you for indulging. I know it was a little longer tonight, but I think I was very pleased with those teachers that presented. They did a very nice job. And like I said, it really has been a group effort across the district with folks buying into it.
Very good. So moving on to the report of the president. The president is not here, he's indisposed this evening. I have no report, so I'll move on to opening the meeting up to the public. This would be for agenda items only. Just as a matter of pro forma, if anyone cares to speak this evening, please state your name, your address, and please try to refrain to keep your comments to 3 minutes. The time is now 8:29. We'll open the meeting to the public. Yeah, we'll start seeing no one in the room. We'll move to Zoom. Anyone on the Zoom care to make a comment regarding any agenda items? You may be muted, I'm sorry.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, this will probably be very short and sweet, as I tend not to attend these meetings. I did want to ask a quick question.
I'm sorry.
So I'm not on the agenda. If I get an item on the agenda.
I'm sorry, if you would please state your... I'm sorry, if you could please state your name and address.
Absolutely. I'm Jennifer Smith. I'm at 99 Hobart Avenue.
Thank you.
Yes, great. I wanted to talk about the suspension of the Pierpont Union bus, and I did not realize it has to be an agenda item. Apologies for being sent in that. So I was wondering how we how one might get an item on the agenda or
So
open
since-
that up for discussion with the board?
Ms. Smith, since this is not an agenda item here, there'll be a time for public comment after we run through our agenda, where you'd be given an opportunity to speak on any item.
Wonderful, thank you.
Of course. Anyone else on the Zoom care to speak to any item on the agenda? Okay, at 8:30, I close the meeting to the public. And at this time, I'd like to move on to new business where action will be taken. I'd like to start with Mrs. Met for personnel, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pro tem, or I don't know what we would call you. Substitute? Anyway. Hopefully tonight, we'll be going over 23 different articles on the agenda. One is Patricia Urdas Aquilane, teacher assistant at Washington School, for her resignation. Also, Caitlin Walker, number 2, teacher assistant, for her resignation. Merit goals, to certify that quantitative merit criteria has been satisfied by the superintendent of schools for the 2020-21 school year. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education to approve the payment of the merit bonus goal in the amount of $6,297. And just to read this, I just have to comment on the unbelievable job that our staff, Mr. Hurley, the office, has done. Everyone could never imagine what we have put on them this year with all this the turmoil because of the epidemic. Approved goal statement. The superintendent will work with building administrators to create building level committees consisting of various stakeholders geared specifically toward diversity. The committees will work to promote solidarity within the school community and the borough by developing strategic strategies to ensure equity, promote critical thinking, and empower student voice. Each school committee will meet a minimum of 3 times throughout the school year to develop programs and activities in line with the vision of the committee. Additionally, the superintendent will form a district committee consisting of members of each school's committee. The district committee will meet quarterly. There will be a minimum of 1 district-wide professional development program, 2 professional development programs per building, and 2 student programs per building, and 1 parent academy program focusing on topics involving equity, diversity, and inclusion. Number 4, Abby Rabinowitz as a SAC, to approve as a SAC at Union Middle School, September, whatever, for 1 week in summer. This is a new position. $1,767.75, all right. 5, Anthony Tosi to approve as a guidance counselor at Union School. Francesca Mastropiero to approve as a lead replacement guidance counselor at Union Middle School. 7, Maria Valente to approve her as an elementary teacher at Lincoln School. 8, Isabel Wall to approve as a special education teacher at Pierpont. 9, Madison Debakian as an elementary teacher at Washington School for approval. 10, Natalie Sampiedro to approve her as a teacher at Washington School. Number 11, extended school year to approve the following staff to work during the 2021 extended school year program at the rates listed. And you have the teachers, the teacher assistants, social skills provider, and the aid service for students virtual extended school year program as listed. 12, summer RTI teachers. Can you just tell me what that RTI meant?
Response to intervention. It's that's the acronym used for developing a program for students who need extra help.
Okay. So 12, approve summer RTI teachers at the rate of $50 per hour. And Alexandra Demetrius, Nisa Jarrett, Blendon Johansson, and Robin Zach Joanna Moran, to increase her hours per week for 3.5 per day, 4 days a week, to 5.9 hours per day, 5 days a week. Let's see, 14, substitute teachers. Approve the following substitute teacher. It's really one teacher for the school year, Ann Gramuglia. 15, summer staff for IEP meetings. Staff members to assist with the summer IEP meetings at the hourly rate of $35, and there's 22 of them listed below, so you could just peruse them. 7, service provider, following the teachers to conduct a maximum of 3 workshops during the year at the rate of $35 per hour, and that goes to Bridget Lowe. 17, summer enrichment, ELA teacher. Michael Stracco as the ELA summer enrichment teacher. 18, summer enrichment math teacher. Stephen Curtis as a math summer enrichment teacher. 19, summer enrichment academy nurse. And that's just the job enrichment. Oh, Tiffany Eusebio. 20, summer enrichment academy clerical assistant, and that would go to Maria DeSalvo. 21, Talisa Nahas, approve a disability leave following, and also following the birth of her baby, absence under the Family Leave Act, without pay. 22, that would be Talisa Nahas. And then 22 is Patricia Cormat, and that's just the leave of absence under the Family Leave Act. 23, travel reimbursements, and there's quite a few of those on both pages. And that's it. So with the board's approval, I ask for their approval to move items 1 through 23.
We'll ask for a motion, a second, and then we'll have some comment from the board.
Okay.
If you'd like to put those items forward, Mrs. Ahmed?
Well, I just said to put them through I would like them to, I just presented the 1 to 23, right?
Yes.
What else do you want me to say here?
Do we have a motion?
I'd like to move them.
Second.
Any comment from the superintendent? Any board member? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Mr. Bogosian?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move on to curriculum instruction. Mrs. Jones?
Thank you. There are 6 resolutions recommended by the superintendent for tonight's decision to approve. Number 1, out-of-district placements. There is a list for those. Service providers, resolution 2. Field trips, resolution 3. Rutherford Education Foundation, and they are asking us to accept grant funds from the REF in the amount of $25,191.68, funding a total of 14 grants, $20,828.95 from the REF, and the remaining from the Casadani Fund of $4,362.73. And can I just say this, Mr. Hurley was very eloquent when he praised the REF for going ahead in a tough year and trying to come up with new things. And the golf tournament was successful, and they raised quite a bit. And then yesterday we had the ladies' luncheon, and that served us well. They've raised a lot of money for that too. But one of the grants that was approved was to Jason Orosi, who is the head of our academic decathlon team, and he would request a trophy case, which I think is just wonderful and well deserved. So that was one of the other grants. Lots of good ones, xylophones for music for Connie DeFazio and Alea Jordan. That's the new teacher taking over for music at Pierpont, and many others. But giving a trophy case for him, he's done such a wonderful job over the years. I think that's so well deserved. So that's a resolution from the REF. Number 5, NJSIAA. This is for the summer athletic practice for the high school, which begins 6/21. And curriculum, right, there's 6 or 7 of them, at $50 an hour for from the ESSA grant funds. And those are the 6 resolutions I put forward. Any questions?
And is there a second? Any
I move
comment
the
or
6
questions?
resolutions.
I just want to echo what I said in the communication that Ms. Jones referred to, thanking the REF, for, in a tough year, to come up with what in the old days, like 3-4 years ago, would be almost a normal grant year. And, so it really was a remarkable accomplishment, and we appreciate what they've done. And also the Casananti family, who, still contributes money every year from the fund. It was to honor Tom's memory. I also want to let the board know that hopefully, in the return to normalcy that we're talking about, we'll be able to do what we couldn't do last year in September or October, have the grant winners here and recognize them publicly and acknowledge the teachers who put the grants in and announce the grants. So, last year we couldn't do that because we couldn't have folks in the meeting. Hopefully next year, some of those things that we weren't able to do, we're going to be able to do again.
That's great. So I think we need to call the roll.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Mr. Bogosian?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, Mr. Racine to finance.
We have 16 items on the agenda today. One of the big ones for finance. Number 1 is approval of bills. Number 2 is the approval of the April treasury report. The 3 are to approve the budget transfers. 4 is to approve the student lunch prices for next year. And 5, the service charge for the order fee for next year. 5 is to rescind a parent transportation agreement. Number 7 is a donation of a new pottery wheel. I always love donations. Number 8 is the agreement with the BCSSS team, right, for the services. Number 9 is the ARP ESSER we talked about. A lot of letters here like that. Number 10 is the semi-reimbursement for one tuition. 11 is the approval of that safe return to in-person instruction, which we've spoken about. Number 12 and 13 are long resolutions for purchasing, for leasing Chromebooks. It's a lot of words for something we do anyway. Number 14, right, is for facility service consulting from Advocate. 15, the Care Plus New Jersey. Number 16 is a contract agreement for services for the Southbury, Georgia.
Put those motions
I'd
forward.
like to move all 5.
Is there a second? Mr. Bogosian? Sorry.
If I may, I think I was asked earlier to specifically address number 12 and 13, the Chromebook leases. This is something we've been doing for the last 6 or 8 years on an annual basis, and it's enabled us to get to the one-to-one, to meet our one-to-one objectives much earlier than we had planned. What we do, the way this works is that it's included in the budget for 21-22. We go out and we purchase these things, and then concurrently we go out to bid for a lease. So once that's all settled, then we put in for a reimbursement for the purchase, so that money gets back into the budget. So this is what we've done, it's worked, and that's what we're asking to do again.
Thank you.
Okay? I will point out too, on the last motion, not the last one, the next to last motion, the Care Plus, Mr. Hurley had discussed that a little bit in his discussion before. But the last sentence there, just acceptance of the proposal and use of these funds are contingent upon the approval of the application by the NJDOE. We obviously can't commit ourselves to that without that approval, otherwise we're on for that. Any other questions on the finance?
Nothing.
Any other board member, any comment? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Mr. Bogosian?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
I'm abstaining from resolution number 7, but approving all the others.
Thank you. Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Great. Moving on to policy, Mr. Gillier.
We did not have a policy committee meeting since our last board meeting, and there are no resolutions for this evening.
Thank you, sir. Then moving to buildings and grounds, Mr. Sprayberry.
Hi, good evening. First off, I'd like to take a minute and update everyone. We had a walkthrough today of all the buildings and the construction going on, and just like to give high praise and to Mr. Hurley, Mr. Kelly, and to Epic and everyone involved, all the contractors. The progress is amazing. From the kindergarten center, which is completed, it just was outstanding. There's a resolution here tonight that I'll put forth in the Buildings and Ground Committee to approve. That's just really going to take the extension of the sidewalk in the K Center, and it's really just going to finish that whole project off. So up to all of our names being on plaques out there, so generations to come look at the wonderful work that the board and the community has approved. I think there were some key moments where you walk into some wow factors at Union Middle School, at Pierpont, when you walk into their new gyms, and you just look, you go, wow. I mean, they're big, they're exactly what the district needs. It's really it was an eye opener for what the schools are really getting, especially at Pierpont. When you walk in, you see the connection with the gym, the classroom, what's going to be coming, how it's all going to connect. The brick colors that we saw, they just matched. So there's just so much positive there. But I think when the community sees it, they're going to really it's going to be a wow factor. So it was just really impressive, epic, very, very educational. Talking to us, had their they really got a great handle on what's going on in our district and all these projects. So it was just wonderful to see. The principals were involved. You could just see walking with Morano, walking with Slicer, working with Ms. Graham, and everybody. You could just see their excitement about what they're getting, and their appreciation for what the district and everybody's doing for them. So it was just wonderful to see.
The labs in the high school, they're just all done now with the tables on wheels, so that they have great mobility. Again, the elevator at Kindergarten Center, that's just going to be great. They have a whole ramp where the stage used to be. Many of us who had kindergartners that went there, so that the stage is gone, but that ramp, that handicap access is really good. And the chairlift, not the one that we had that kind of was tractor that went up the steps, but that will be a great bonus. The nurse's office, the bathroom. So everything that we saw was just wonderful. It was really a great moment to see the progress really getting there. You could tell the end's not that far away. And I think it was a very good visit today. And the gentlemen for Epic, they were so polite. One gentleman was afraid I might fall over the floor. He'd take my arm, But they were really very courteous and very kind.
I think the comment of the day came from Mr. Morano when we were doing the science labs, and he looked at us all and he said, this environment really just encourages education, for the students. The academic success that this brings to our students, and that's who this is for. When you can upgrade their education and their ease of education, and it makes them more successful, that's what we're doing for them.
Thank you both. I sincerely appreciate that. I know I wasn't able to join you today, but getting that report and that feedback, I think, is excellent. Jack, do you have any comment?
I appreciate. I was happy you all got to see it, and quite frankly, I've been looking from the outside in on Pierpont, for example, and walking into that construction area and into what will be the gym and seeing the stage, already built, the tracking up above the stage up there, kind of visualizing where the courts are going to be, where the bleachers are going to be, and like you said, upstairs, seeing those 2 classrooms that are already there that will eventually be connected to the other 9 in the other edition. It was remarkable to see and encouraging because we are on a timeline, right? We have to be ready to open, and it certainly looked like still a lot of work to be done, but you can get the sense that the progress is being made. Union School, to see them starting to put the cinder up, right? The brick already starting to go up at Pierpont, and the kindergarten center and Lincoln School. The sense, small project in Lincoln, kindergarten center, not as small, but the sense of, completion, and how much better it looks. And, like I said, at the kindergarten center, that lobby where it's new, knocks the socks off. Some of the other areas where you took 100-plus-year-old building, you have to remember what it looked like to appreciate it. But if you remember what it looked like, wow, there's a wow factor there. And what you're saying, about Mr. Sprayberry about Epic, both this time around and last time around. I know Mr. Kelly had experience with them in another district. They are wonderful to work with, and PSA is wonderful to work with. They've been on the ball with everything, and anytime there's a little potential concern, we're made aware of it, no matter what time of day or night it is, or what day of the week it is, and we're addressing it. So it's, I'm very pleased, and I'm happy you all able, those of you that saw it had a chance to see it, and I was happy to get, to see some of the things that we haven't seen yet, either.
And I think too, one of the key factors is talking to John from Epic about it, is what's absolutely great for the district, and it's just an unknown, is that the timing, and Jack and I talked about earlier, the timing of this project, had it been delayed or anything by months, our cost to the district would have increased by 30 to 40%, simply because of construction materials.
Yep.
So Epic and Joe, Jack, everybody being on the ball and getting these projects moving and done, and approved and awarded and moving, saving the district a lot of money in the current situation.
And I want to just echo that again as things come up. Sometimes I know the enormity of what we're doing, right? And we want to say, wow, let's take a little more time on this. Well, time is not only money, time is time, I was very, to the point, I think, a matter of fact, last week, our administrators meeting, about getting everything set so that the day after the kids are gone, whatever can happen, can happen. Because if we lose a day now, I'm multiplying that day by 2 or 3 on the other side of it. And, I want to be able to, not to say to everybody, hey, we got a great gym, but guess what? We can't open school. Especially after the year we had, right? I want to, so, I think, moving intelligently is important, but moving with expediency is also important. And the prices that have gone up everywhere, not just in construction, I mean, everywhere, in the last month. I mean, you look at your grocery, everything's going up. With the real expensive stuff, the brick and the steel, the steel would have killed us. Would have killed us. So we're very fortunate. Some of it was just luck, the timing of it all, and some of it was the work that we all did to get it moving. But it really has helped us a lot.
Will there be an opportunity for the rest of us to see that?
That's my next question.
We could probably arrange some other point,
It would be awesome.
Yeah, we could probably arrange something. Again, we have to pick the timing and also get these guys, it was giving up the morning for them and all that, but we could probably work something like
Not that I don't trust James, right?
So, James,
No, but it would be nice to see. I mean, we've been hearing about it.
Right.
It'd just be nice to see.
Well, one of the things I do want to try to get, every time we go somewhere, and that's more metaphorically but Epic's taking a whole ton of pictures. Today, Sergio was taking some pictures, and I want to try to get some pictures that, not just a couple that we get like in a monthly report from Epic that may just be a couple weeks old. Get them out to our communications people and get them out there.
That'd be great.
Because I think that'd be great to see. Joe and I are meeting on Wednesday afternoon with our communications folks about a couple of things, end of the year messages, a newsletter for the fall, and we're going to see if we got them some pictures. Could they get something out there for folks to see? Because I think it would be good to see it. And sometimes the picture doesn't do it justice. So like the Grand Canyon, you have to almost see it to appreciate it, right? But I think would be great for more people to see it. But I think for the community to know, for the board to know, you know, we still have a long road, but we're right where we should be, if not a little ahead.
So on that note, do we have updates on first day of business for the Pierpont Gym and Union? Are they going to be? Was that October originally? Right?
Oh no, Pierpont Gym is the end of July, substantially completed, and is scheduled to be in place day one for kids.
Oh, it is.
And the fact they're saying right end of July, I'm correct on that, right? Pierpont, and the fact that that's a 7-week window before the kids are coming in makes me very confident we'll be okay. Union School is substantial completion is November. And again, you know, with the abatements that have to go on in the old gym and other stuff, and with some of the issues, although they seem to be really picking it up now. I was very happy with what I saw today. You know, I think that's probably going to be a doable, makeable date. But yeah, we're planning, actually in July, they're planning a demolition of the old gym, and they're not demolishing that till they know the new one's, you know, ready. So right now, that's looking good. That's looking good.
I will say, we heard today that the original date of completion for the enclosure at the Union Gym was supposed to be the end of June. That's now slated to the end of July. So
Right.
that may push things back a little bit. But we'll say also at Pierpont, they noted that the concrete floor in the gym was poured, I guess, late last week.
Last
So they're
Thursday.
waiting for it to cure. So once it's cured, they can get the wood floor down, they can get in there, get the windows done. So that's kind of holding up a lot of things, but, you know, they're like chomping at the bit to get moving.
A lot of what I saw in Pierpont today reminded me of what I saw in this building years ago and in Lincoln School in, I guess, fall, where, you know, it looks like cinder block and a bunch of cutouts where windows, and all that stuff, you know, for me, it could never go up, but for them, that goes up quick. So once they can get in there and start doing that, it's going to look, you know, I think Pierpont is certainly on schedule, maybe even ahead, you know, so, yeah.
I mean, it's in great shape. I mean, you walk in, I mean, the board and the shelf there, I mean, I mean, like I said, we've got the staging drops and stuff already in, the curtain, I mean, there's just so much there, it's a matter of finishing. And I think it'll go like that. And within a matter of weeks, it'll change.
Yeah.
You'll see a change in the whole area.
Now, part of the discussion at Pierpont's Gym was I felt it would be fitting that I would take and make the first shot, basketball. and if this was like 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, we'd be ready by July 30th. But now, it may be October 1st before I actually make that first shot.
I'll
But
put it on record. I challenge you to one-on-one when the gym opens.
oh, man. I'll put on record, I wish it was 10 years ago.
On that note, Dr. Racine, do you have a question?
Oh, I was going to ask about photos on the website, but Jack already answered it.
Okay, then the only comment or question I have, Mr. Sprayberry, were there any screens visible?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, when the screens come.
Oh, are you talking about like mosquito net screens?
Never mind, okay. Why don't you move your agenda items, please?
All right, so we have, by the superintendent's recommendation, we have 10 resolutions to move tonight. We have 9 change orders in place, and a lot of these have already been discussed. We have one, the flood reimbursement at Lincoln. We have the return of the balance of change order, so that is returned back to the district, Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
$36,000, great job. High school week, the fire caulking, which we all saw today, you know, lays down the miles and miles of hallways, all the red caulking. Labor and material safety for contingency damages, good. The rerouting of the storm piping along the interior over at Union Middle School. Design changes, so nothing major there for 1. 2 is McCabe Environmental Services. The asbestos abatement and monitoring, roof replacements at weatherproofing at the kindergarten center, roof replacement at Rutherford High School, roof replacement weatherproofing technologies at Washington Elementary School, boiler replacement, So with boiler replacement at Lincoln Elementary, boiler replacements at Washington School, the PA system upgrade that we discussed. All these were discussed at the, as I said, noted, the building and grounds committee went through with Mr. Sternum and Jack and Joe. And then we have the PA system upgrade at Pierpont Elementary, the PA system installation by Open Systems at Pierpont Elementary. And then number 10 is the renovation of the walkway retaining wall at the K Center. If you get a chance, drive by, you can actually see the new existing platform that was added in and with the railing and stuff, and you can see the old one. And it really just needs to be, this is crucial, I think, in making that really finish that project. So, Mr. President, I'd like to move those 10 resolutions for approval by the board.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Mrs. Jones?
May I?
Yes, of course.
Just to clarify a couple things in here, I'm on the wrong page. Number 4 and number 7 were actually projects that were done last summer. And looking back through my notes, I don't think I ever asked for board approval. Those projects are already done, paid for, in good shape. But because the auditors are going to ask, so I just wanted to get it in there. Numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9 were all discussed as part of the budget development process for 21-22. Number 2, that's McCabe Environmental. That will be our asbestos, obviously asbestos abatement monitoring at the high school and at Union School. They are part of an educational ed data services, which is a cooperative purchasing agreement we participate in, so that's different information than what I gave the committee earlier. I just want to point out that I made an effort here to spell out where these funds are coming from for each of these projects, and there's really two separate sources. Most of them say, if you'll notice, they will be paid for out of budgeted 21-22 capital outlay funds. That is part of our annual budget. So we take money out of our capital reserve and we move it into, as part of the budget process, and we move it into capital outlay. So that's why those are the things we discussed. The others, which is number 2, McCabe Environmental, and then the last 2, you'll notice that they say they come out of capital projects funds. That's the referendum fund. So that's Fund 30. We don't budget for that every year. We have that, and it just kind of rolls along year after year after year until we get rid of all the money. So those are specifically related to the referendum. They were not part of the scope. Well, the asbestos is, but the other 2 were not part of the scope, but they are related to the project, so it is valid to use referendum funds for those 2.
So are we under budget on, with all these change orders, are we still under budget on each of these projects?
Oh, yeah.
We
Yes.
are. Great.
Yeah.
And I should mention too, the number 10, which is the one I handed out when I came into, that's also the capital projects fund, because that ties into the whole ADA aspect of the multipurpose room in the kindergarten center. So even with that, yes, we're still good. Yes.
So number 10 that's the ramp that we'd been talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And also, we have 2 number 4s, just, you might want to adjust.
Oh, jeez. Okay, I'll call the second number 4, 4A. Thank you.
Thanks, James. What, on those boiler replacements, or is that happening this summer as well?
No, this is numbers 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Those are just plans. That's for Perret
Got it.
to come in and plan for it. It's a big project, so we talked about putting that into the budget for next year, 22,
Okay, got it.
23. So that's the plan.
Got it.
Still the plan.
Okay.
One other just quick comment, because we mentioned about the kindergarten center being complete, except for the ramp in the back, and there are some cabins coming in tomorrow in the nurse's office to cover up the quagmire cable that was in there. But if you see if you go by, if you take a walk or drive by, you see the fencing in the front of the new entrance for where the elevator is. That's temporary fencing. The fencing that's going to go there will be like the fencing that's in the back. There's new fencing in the back, but that wasn't ready yet, so we have temporary black fencing up, but it will look like the fencing in the back. So, there's still a few things left. I just want to mention that because Sprayberry mentioned, if you take a look at the ramp, well, if you do take a look at the ramp, look at the new fencing in the new section, that will be the fencing that will go in the front as well.
Of course.
The change order, the first change order you see there, which was the flood damage, I just want to make sure you're aware of this because I know I was bending Jack's ear quite a bit on this one. There was some flood damage early last summer caused by the contractor at Lincoln School. So we started working with them immediately about having them take responsibility for it. They came to me several months ago and said, okay, we got it figured out. We've looked at your costs, which are approximately $17,000, at the cost we incurred to clean it up and to empty the area and whatever we had to do. And the contractor said our costs are also about $17,000, so it came to about $35,000. So they said to me, they came to me and said, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to go to our insurance company, the contractor's insurance company, and ask for $35,000. And we want to go to the subcontractor's insurance company and ask them for $35,000. I said, that sounds like double dipping to me. I'm not really comfortable with this. And what we would do is, except when the funds came in, we would ask to, we would reimburse the contractor for that because all the insurance funds would be coming in through us. So anyway, we went back and forth for a long time. Still wasn't comfortable with it, but ultimately the contractor came to me and said, okay, look, we have an agreement. You sign it, we're going to sign it, and both insurance companies are going to sign it to say you're getting $70,000. I said, okay, fine, I'll take it then. So everybody knows what's going on. We're all above board. So we got 2 checks for $35,000, and we're going to end up reimbursing the $17,000 that you see here as the first change order, and the rest will go back into our referendum funds. I mean, part of it will cover our costs to clean up, but there was some excess there, and I couldn't quite avoid taking it. So.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joe and Jack, I really appreciate the transparency on all these projects and the way you carefully spell out exactly where the funding's coming from, the progress reports to the board. I think it's really commendable. It's a Herculean effort, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other board member, any comments for buildings and grounds?
Maybe at the end of the school year, we could get in and see things. Not now when the school's, open and everything.
Yeah, we'll see if we can't come up with something as
Yeah,
superintendent.
little
said.
tour.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Okay, would you please call the roll?
Of course, Mrs. Ahmed,
Yes.
Mr. Bogosian,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Dr. Racine,
Yes.
Mr. Sprayberry,
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone.
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I will. Thank you. So just to update the group, we did have a strategic planning meeting. Bear with me just 1 minute. So we had that meeting on Wednesday evening, June the 2nd. During that meeting, we actually did a brief recap of what the IT committee had come forward, or the IT department rather, had provided with us. We had some discussions about continuing the streaming of Zoom, and we're going to fall back and reassess that as we get closer to the start of the new school year, not knowing what the future, the uncertainty may be. We did speak to the courtesy busing, and we talked about some leadership planning moving forward across the district. So, Jack, do you have any comments on that?
No.
Okay.
It was a productive meeting. But I think, in terms of, since so much of it is down the road,
Yeah.
we'll hold off a lot of discussion.
So then, moving forward to old business, any board member, Mrs. Jones?
If you recall, the last board meeting, I happened to mention that years ago, we gave the board office and their staff a little luncheon. And a couple days later, Shelley says, let's just do this. And she did a fabulous job. All the credits go to Shelley.
No.
All the credits go to Shelley. She got the food, great sandwiches from Steve and Andrea's, and salads, and a little dessert, sodas, a hot dish from Matera's, a ziti dish. I think everybody enjoyed it. I mean, Jack mentioned it, his staff did, and Joe. But I think that they were very appreciative. They have been under the same duress that everybody else has had, or even more in many cases, because I'm sure Jack and Joe were not happy campers back last July, all the work that they had to do last summer. And I think that they all appreciate it, and I think it's something that the board should do each year from now on. But
Well, I'd like to thank, board members. They did support me in this after I came up with the idea, and I appreciate that, but I did it with my heart. I mean, I've seen this before, many years before. They did it every year. And I had heard a board member say at office, wow, all these teachers are having all these appreciations and everything, and the board, and like the high school PTA with all their spinning wheels and they forgot about us. I said, you don't have, I didn't believe they didn't have it this year. So I was so glad. It made me so happy to be able to do something that, I really felt it, and I appreciate you guys supporting me on that.
Well, it was very nice, and as I sent a thank you, and Joe did, and some of the other folks did as well, to the board, it was very nice. And also, this year has been a very unusual year where you haven't had a chance to sit and have lunch with people or, socialize or even be at meetings with people. So just the opportunity for 45 minutes or an hour to all be in the same room was something we haven't done. I mean, normally we do a little something at the holiday, and we couldn't do that this year. So I think that was even a little more special this year. So I know everybody appreciated it, and the food was great, and thank you all for that.
Let me just, if I may, thank you, of course, that was appreciated, but we also appreciated that both of you ladies stuck around and hung out with us.
Oh, it's our enjoyment.
We're eating, I noticed that, but we appreciated your presence as well.
Steve and Andre's always been so fantastic. I call him at the last minute, and it's like he'll do anything. But I walk in, he says, "Uh-oh, what do you need today?" So I appreciate him also.
Well, Mrs. Ahmed and Mrs. Jones, thank you both. I think that it has been such a challenging and unique year for all of us. I know that we do a lot for teacher appreciation in all of our schools, and obviously we do appreciate the teachers, the administrators for all their hard work between moving to a remote learning environment to doing hybrid and multiple days in and out. But certainly the efforts of the Office of the Superintendent, we would not have been successful. I think that this is something we should bring back when we do celebrate teacher appreciation, to appreciate our superintendent's office and the dynamic team that supports him, including Joe and everyone else in the office to do this. So going forward, Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Ahmed, we will make a point to do this and carry it forward. But thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other, I'm sorry, Mr. Healy?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
as far as old business, myself and Mrs. Jones attended the New Jersey School Board Association Delegate Assembly May 22nd, Saturday. 2 resolutions were passed that I believe then go to the State of New Jersey Legislature for consideration and approval. The first, and I'll read in part, the first resolution, I believe, was along the sentiment as equity, along with equity. And how it reads is, the New Jersey School Board Association believes that the local school boards and districts should make all necessary and appropriate efforts to raise awareness and employ best practices to create an inclusive, safe, positive school climate for all students. That's in part. And then the second resolution is intended to create a trained, non-lawyer advocate for parents and students in each district, and I believe they expect that the state would fund the training for that individual, or and I believe it's one individual they're talking about. So that was the second resolution that was passed. Another meeting, Kinder PTA meeting last week, where they installed a new board. It was a peaceful transfer of power. So, one note: the Bergen County meeting. They handed out flowers, it was nice. They also showed and expressed appreciation for the administration and the teachers at Kinder Center too. The Bergen County meeting, I just wanted to mention something because we're talking about appreciation for the support staff. A person, I think her name was Laura Napolitano.
Linda McShane.
I'm sorry?
You talking about the Rutherford one?
The nurse, no, the nurse that spoke. And she recounted all the things and services through the pandemic and all they did. And it was impressive. And just as a note, if there's another category to show appreciation, maybe the school nurses are in that category too, just to note it, okay?
And in
But-
particular, she mentioned Linda McShane from Rutherford, who's the Washington school nurse.
Yes.
About all her service during the summer.
Yeah.
So.
I know this year, the nurses are always included in the teacher appreciation. We
Teacher
include everyone.
appreciation, yeah.
But there's also a nurses appreciation week. And I know most of the buildings did do something for the nurses this year.
Okay, thank you.
At least I was told that. So.
Mhm.
They also mentioned that 40 members throughout Bergen County have not completed their mandated governance training. So those are their second year would do finances, which is governance two. You and I would do the legal update, and I think that's probably what we had.
Mhm.
You know, you had the orientation, but you did that. So, you know, I still want us to be one of those, one of the ones that they count on that's not completed their training.
While we're talking about it, just as, I don't know if anyone knows this, but if you attend the virtual meeting workshop, should we get credit for that?
You do.
You
Yeah.
do? Okay, because for
One of
your,
these years, I would like to put us up for a whole board member credit. And the thing is, you have to go with 2 delegates, with one, we always send a delegate and 2 delegates to the assembly, and you have to go to the workshop. But now that it's virtual, maybe we'll have a chance, because they're counting the virtual ones. Because there's no reason we do enough that we could be a good board member and get that if we wanted it. But as long as we go to the workshop, and even if it's virtual, they will credit us with that. So,
who would resolve that if you don't see it as your credit? Matt Lee?
That's New Jersey School Board, so
Yeah.
they do it.
Mr. Kelly.
Oh, it's up to you? Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you, Mr.
yes.
Kelly. Oh, okay, thank you.
Mr. Healy, thank you, and thank
Yes.
you for acknowledging our nurses. We do appreciate it very much.
No, that was very impressive. That's-
If there's no other old business, I'd like to move on to the legislative update.
Yeah, just a quick one here. Suicide prevention student ID cards, Assembly Bill 1660 and Senate Bill 550, we require that student identification cards for grades 7 through 12 have the telephone number for a suicide prevention hotline printed on the back of the card. The bill now goes back to the Senate to concur with Assembly amendments. NJSBA continues to monitor the bill, but has not taken any position. Addressing the school nurse shortage, Assembly Bill 4544 and Senate Bill 3150 permits a retired school nurse to return to employment during the COVID-19 public health emergency and state of emergency without having to re-enroll in the pension system. The total period of re-employment with any individual Board of Education does not exceed a 2-year period unless approved by the Commissioner of Education. And third, the teacher residency program. Senate Bill 2833 established a teacher residency program with the goal of diversifying the state's educated workforce. The bill would offer stipends and provide participants with the education and field experience necessary to obtain a certificate of eligibility with advanced standing and a credential that allows an individual to seek and accept employment as a public school teacher. So, you know, there's just other ones that are always of interest to it. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. So at 9:19 p.m., I'd like to open the meeting back up to the public. As I noted earlier, any member of the public who wishes to speak, please state your name and address. We'll start, anyone in the room? Seeing no one, we'll move to the Zoom. Anyone on Zoom wish to make a comment on any item?
Hello, this is Jennifer Smith. Thank you again for your patience with my interruption earlier, not being as familiar with the process. I am really glad that I took the time and joined this meeting today, because I'm truly in awe of everything that you guys do and how hard you guys work. I don't think I ever would have appreciated it had I not sat here through the full meeting. But that not being the reason that I joined today, I did want to make a very, very minor, somewhat minor, simple request in the scheme of all these discussed today, to ask that you reconsider the subscription bus from Pierpont to Union. I understand that that bus was suspended for this upcoming school year, starting in September. And I wanted to let you know that it is something that is very valued by some of the parents who are, who are somewhat put out, particularly after the redistricting. My home, for example, is 1.7 miles from Pierpont. That is a 36-minute walk for my daughter, and it's just shy of the 2-mile requirement where transportation would need to be provided. So I don't think the request is unreasonable. But I guess, at this juncture, I don't want to belabor the meeting that has gone on for quite some time. But, I thought maybe if I could put it to you to reconsider. And I do know many, many other parents who would like to share their thoughts and considerations for why you might want to continue the subscription bus from Pierpont to Union.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. We appreciate your comments this evening.
Thank you, and thank you for all the hard work everybody does. They do a great job during the pandemic. Fantastic.
Thank you. Any other community member on Zoom wish to make any comment on any item? Okay, not here.
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
can you hear me?
Yeah, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, this is Julia Zanoni Mendelson, and my address is 249 Silver Street in Rutherford, New Jersey.
If you could just please, I'm sorry because of the Zoom, I've got your address. If you could just restate your name, please.
Julia Zanoni Mendelson.
Thank you, Julia.
Yeah, I would like to just second the sentiment of disappointment in the service, the bus service being canceled for next year. We were planning on using it for our rising 7th grader who's going to Union. And we're 2 working parents, 2 educators ourselves, and we were just counting on the service to make our daily, morning grind to be a little more approachable. So I would like the board to reconsider taking away this service from working families in Rutherford. I think there are more families than you probably are aware of that are counting on this service for next year.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment this evening. We do appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else on Zoom who'd like to make a comment this evening? Okay, not hearing any others. The time is now 9:24. I'd like to close the open meeting to the public. Superintendent Hurley, will we need for an executive session?
One executive session for a legal issue. Probably won't need more than 3 to 5 minutes. 5 minutes time.
Okay.
No action to be taken.
No action to be taken. So I need to move forward with a motion for an adjournment. Mrs. Jones, seconded by Mr. Sprayberry. Okay.